Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up.
For me, it has been a wonderful journey.
The French Sevens team shatters Fiji's hope for a third gold medal. Also an update on the massacre in PNG's East Sepik. And
one or two countries say no to something, or then things can't get done. In a diplomatic way, it's quite a tense atmosphere.
discussions on seabed mining continue on in Kingston, Jamaica. Fiji's reign as Olympic Sevens gold medalist came to an end on Sunday morning, beaten 28-7 in the final at the Stade de France in Paris by host nation France. Fiji opened the scoring in the second minute of the gold medal match, but that was the last time they scored as France ran in 4 tries of their own. Meanwhile, the Fijianas' campaign got off to a less than ideal start with 2 losses. Christina Persico has more.
In some ways, it was an unlikely Final Four in the men's sevens in Paris, including South Africa, the last qualifiers for the Games, Australia, who had never made it that far in an Olympic tournament, and Fiji, who may have been the 2 times defending champions, but had not had a great season on the sevens circuit. Fiji and France made the gold medal match, and South Africa beat Australia for bronze. But Fiji's flair failed to fly as a number of penalties broke up the play, and France capitalised on mistakes to win the first gold medal of their home Olympiad. It may have been the last hurrah for Fiji legend Jerry Tuwai, who has now added a silver medal to his 2 golds.
For me, it has been a wonderful journey of rugby from the first goal in Rio. As you can see, the captain is here, not coach now. And 2020 was a blessing, and to be here in France 2024, it's another blessing for me.
Coach Orsia Kolenisau paid tribute to Tuwai and his legacy and also spoke of the expectation from the fans. But he says he reminded his players of what they had achieved despite the loss.
I saw them, they were really disappointed that we didn't win. I just told them, look, we didn't win a gold, but we won a silver medal at the Olympics. A lot of athletes dream to be where you're at right now. And I was trying to get them to understand that congratulations, you've won silver at the Olympics. It's something to be proud of. Athletes, they work 4 years, 8 years. Some, they chase it all their life, but they don't get a medal.
The Fijiana, meanwhile, started their campaign with 2 losses on Monday morning, a close one to Canada, 17-14, and an upset at the hands of China, 40-12. The Fijiana now play New Zealand early on Tuesday morning.
A lack of manpower and resources is hampering police efforts to restore law and order after a massacre in Papua New Guinea on 16th of July. Local media are reporting 26 men, women and children were killed after violent attacks on 3 remote villages in East Sepik over what's believed to have been a land dispute. According to the UN, the death toll could rise to 50, amid reports that houses have been torched and over 200 villagers have fled the area. Joining me to talk more about this is Grace Feavai. Talofa lava, Grace, what's the latest?
Talofa lava, Susana. So our PNG correspondent, Scott Waide, says arrests have been made and 5 people have been taken into custody for questioning, but aren't believed to be the ringleaders in charge of this attack. And Mr. Waide also says that the attackers are believed to be heavily armed with guns. And that's the latest update so far in terms of any arrests, and the amount of people who have died still remain at 26.
It was reported that the lack of fuel meant that police weren't able to get into the area where the attack took place. Is that still the case?
Yes, so Mr. Waide says that there isn't much police presence still, and that some police officers still remain present and unarmed at the moment.
You spoke to someone on the ground there. What did they say?
So a village spokesperson said they are trying their best to help these families because there isn't any government presence. And according to the villagers in Angoram, helping these people, they've actually gone beyond their own resources to gather and fetch coconut and banana just for these families to have something to eat, as well as being sheltered in the village of Angoram.
The editor of an investigative news organisation in Solomon Islands says the temporary blocking of dozens of posts on the official Facebook page was a targeted attack. Ofani Eremei says hundreds of in-depth Solomon news posts dating back several months were blocked overnight and no other media in the country were affected. Mr. Eremei says he's still waiting on Meta for an explanation. He spoke with Koroi Hawkins about the incident.
Around 3 p.m. yesterday, we started receiving notifications from Facebook that our posts have been removed. Those notifications actually came one at a time. We were curious initially, but then when we realized that the notifications kept on coming in, we realized that something is not right. Someone may have done something to our Facebook account.
Now, how many stories in total were affected and for how long? Is it back up now?
Yes. In fact, more than 100 stories were removed, starting from 3 p.m. yesterday up until around 9 p.m. last night. But then this morning we were told that the stories have been restored. The account is now functioning well again.
Now, do you have any idea what happened? Has Meta provided an explanation?
At this stage, they haven't. Our partners at OCCRP are following up with Meta on this, and we are still waiting for an explanation that they may provide.
You have been your staff and you have been responsible for breaking some very, very big corruption stories in Solomon Islands. To name a few, the Manasseh Songovare unexplained wealth story for the former Prime Minister, also the Chinese influence and interference in media in Solomon Islands. Do you think this has any relation to your reporting and the kind of stories you cover?
Well, I believe we were targeted because this doesn't happen to any other news organization or news outlet here in the Solomons. It happened only to us at In-Depth Solomons, and the way it was, carried out was unprecedented. It's something that we have not seen before. So I believe we were targeted, and I believe someone or some people or some organization may have been behind this.
In your day-to-day operations, uncovering some of the kinds of information and stories you uncover, do your journalists and yourself, are you subject to much negative feedback or any kinds of pressure?
Yeah, we do from time to time. An example would be, when we came up with the Songovare property wealth story, we've received a lot of criticisms. We have been called names, and it's quite challenging when things like that happen in a small community like this. But I guess we just have to face it up and continue to do the work we are here to do.
In a statement sent to RNZ Pacific, a Meta spokesperson has said the content was removed due to a technical error and has been swiftly restored. We apologise for any inconvenience. The International Seabed Authority Council is currently meeting in Kingston in Jamaica to continue developing rules on mining the seafloor. It comes as the metals company's CEO Gerard Barron has told Reuters he plans to apply for a mining licence in the Clarion-Clipperton zone this year, despite no mining rules yet being in place. The watchdog group, the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition's Phil McCabe, told Caleb Fotheringham 2 distinct camps are being formed within the International Seabed Authority, those keen to see mining start shortly and those calling for a moratorium.
Nauru triggered what's called the 2-year rule in June of 2021, which meant that if their company, who they sponsor, was ready to mine, that they can submit an application after that 2-year period. And the ISA in that time is sort of pressured to finish the rules and regulations so that rules and regulations are in place at the 2-year point. they didn't. There's so much more work to be done in developing the legislation or the rules. They didn't meet the 2-year deadline. This is the 3-year point this week, and they're still miles and miles away from finding a resolution on all the many bits of work that need to be done. That sort of action sort of put a lot of impetus on this meeting space and the ISA in general, and it's, for lots of reasons, countries are calling for a moratorium. There's a few countries that are leading the charge to kick mining off, quite low in numbers, that are wanting it to happen in the short term, but they have some support from a couple of other larger countries. And so, this meeting operates generally on consensus decisions. And so, 1 or 2 countries say no to something, or, then things can't get done. In a diplomatic way, it's quite a tense atmosphere.
In terms of the 2-year rule with Nauru, have they indicated that they want to start mining right away? They've obviously already triggered that rule, but are they going to follow through with it?
Well, the company, which is the subsidiary that exists in Nauru, is called NORI, the Nauru Ocean Resources Incorporated, I believe. The parent company is called the Metals Company, and they just yesterday, the CEO reiterated on Reuters that they intend to, well, they've been saying that they intend to submit their application for exploitation after this meeting, and they reiterated that they still intend to. They don't see any reason why not to, or at least sometime this year. So, the process from there would be the application lands, and then it needs to be assessed. So, at the earliest, mining wouldn't start until probably 2026, actual mining, but the decisions around those are happening now. Countries have basically said they don't want any mining to begin without rules and regulations in place, but rules and regulations are not in place. And, if this company goes ahead and submits that application, that's going against the view, basically, of just about the entire world. So
certainly,
yeah.
It's quite reasonable to want rules for mining to be in place before it starts. Is there any way that they could be stopped?
There's a few legal ways that it could be stopped. Next week in the Assembly meeting, there's been an agenda item put forward that was proposed by 9 countries, including Vanuatu and Palau from the Pacific, plus Germany, France, Brazil, and a few others. And that's for a general policy from the supreme organ of the authority, all of the countries, that would impose a general policy over the whole authority, including the council. And it's a policy around ensuring the effective protection and preservation of the marine environment, which is a legal obligation under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, and no such policy is in place or has been put in place to date. So it's a valid and important thing to put in place. And last year a similar attempt was made at the last Assembly meeting, but it was firmly blocked by 1 or 2 countries. So hopefully that comes forward, and that I think with the countries there, as I read the request for the discussion, is the countries want to discuss the obligation to put a policy like this in place and establish a process for negotiating that. And it might, for our view, what we would like to see is that a moratorium comes out of that discussion over time. But really, it's up to the countries to negotiate that and find a place where all the countries are happy. But, there's a train that's loaded with the world, and it's headed towards the Pacific, and it's going to descend. Unless it's stopped, it's going to descend in the waters of the Pacific in the matter of a year or 3. And I'm not sure that the gravity of that situation. I'm not sure that that's really fully landed in the Pacific region, so I'm quite concerned about that. There's definitely an uptick in interest on the issue. There's an uptick in engagement. There's more people at this council meeting than I've seen before. I expect next week's Assembly meeting to be very busy. So people are paying attention, but the real true gravity of this moment, where decisions around this activity starting at this point in time, I'm not sure that it's fully appreciated.
The International Seabed Authorities Assembly will meet next week immediately after the Council. That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tofa soifua.